Boker Tov, Shavua Tov. Today's daf is Daf Lamed Gimel in Sandhedrin as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanasun Vatzar V'Shivya. Says the Gemara from the top of the page, the second line. Dina Mamas Machzir. The Mishnah had said that when it comes to money matters, financial matters, court decisions can be reversed. Dina Mamas Machzir and Beis Chosben Chopa, meaning whether the reversal is an obligation to pay, or whether it's to acquit, whether it's an acquittal or an obligation, or meaning whether the person is found guilty, dinim mominus can be reversed, meaning even reversed from, so to speak, good to bad, from an acquittal to having to pay. Whereas dinim nefashos are only those decisions are only revoked or overturned or reversed only for a person's merit, like so to speak, to get him off the hook that he's not going to be killed. But they're not. Once he's determined, once he was acquitted, you can't find him guilty. Subsequently, when it comes to din nefashos, so the Gemara says din mamas machzirim, din nefashos says. So the Gemara in the second line in Av Gimel Gilvaraminu, we have a Mishnah also which says danas adin, if the judgment was made zichas achayev, and they made a mistake. The court made a mistake. The court acquitted the person who should be guilty, right? Or chayev as a or the reverse. The court found guilty the person who should have been acquitted. In other words, the person who's innocent, or timis ator, or it was a question about payros or some item that was actually pure, that was spiritually clean, and they said it's defiled, or the reverse here, satame, something was tame said is really tar. Masha asase v'shami beso. If the judge made a mistake, it's done. You can't reverse that, but he has to pay. The person that he made responsible to pay out of his own, made responsible to pay, the judge has to reimburse him. The judge has to reimburse him. That's what the Mishnah says over there. So how do you? Why don't you just say, revoke the judgment and reverse it? The Pashup Pshat here is there's different Pshat. The Pashup Pshat is that when it's a mumcha, if a person is a expert judge, then he doesn't have to pay out of his own pocket because he made that decision. In other words, he's qualified to make a decision. If he made a mistake, it's the mazal of the litigant. Too bad, because he's legitimate. Once he's authorized, he's an authorized judge. If he made a mistake, you know what? Too bad. It's just too bad. The litigant has to suffer. Okay, that's what we say over here. That in other words, if he's a mumcha, that's it. If he's not a mumcha, he's not really a real judge, then he's got to pay it out of his own pocket. Rashi says over here, Amaloha, Ramasha Sasi, but mumcha yesh koch, the third line of Rashi, yesh koch lachsor, v'lamotzim l'meimer baldein ana. So here, this is really this is what we say over here that this Rashi is presumably going on the case where we just said was a mumcha. In other words, where we say over here that our Mishnah that the court can go back on it, and you don't say that the judge who made a mistake has to pay out of his own pocket is when he's a mumcha. If he's not a mumcha, you can't reverse the case. He made a mistake. He shouldn't have been a judge in the first place, presumably. And if he made such a mistake, he's got to pay for it. If he's a mumcha, he doesn't have to pay out of his own pocket. That's our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says if it's a money matter and a mistake was made, the court can just overrule it. He can revoke it himself. Yesh b'koch lachsor, says Rashi. Well, the Meir about the man can say, "I'm not kitami guy. No, I like your first decision. I don't want you to reverse it." He can say, "Listen, who says that you're right? Maybe the first one's right. You're not an expert anyway." So the first answer of the Gemara is that if he's not an expert, he can go back on if he's not an expert, then the judgment stands. And if it turned out that it was a mistake, the judge has to pay. He shouldn't have been. If you're not a mumcha, you shouldn't be a judge. If he is a mumcha, he can revoke his decision.
Is it a single judge?
Single judge, yeah. Let's assume it's a single judge, right? Not a bezin, or if it's a court of three judges who are not mumcha. Says Gemara, is it really true that you're saying our Mishnah is speaking about where he's a mumcha, and therefore he doesn't have to pay out his own pocket, just reverse the decision? Is that really the case? We said if he's a mumcha, not only not only do you don't say that you reverse the decision, you just say that he doesn't have to pay. He's a mumcha. He can make a mistake. He's entitled to make a mistake. He doesn't have to pay. Or Rav Nachman kan sheish gadol himenu b'chachma over minyan, kan she'ein b'gadol himenu b'chachma minyan. When do we say that it's reversed? It's reversed if there's a greater mumcha than him. There's greater b'chach. Maybe it's a court that has more people and greater wisdom than him. Rashi says over here, yesh gadol himenu osa gadol. And the gear say not as machzer, but machzik dvarav shel zed yesh b'koch levatal. In other words, if he's a mumcha, but he's up against greater mumcha than him, either they're greater than him in number, maybe they're 3 and the other one's 9 or whatever, and greater in wisdom, then they can reverse his decision. In other words, you don't say that if he's a mumcha, his decision stands and he doesn't have to pay for it, right? And he doesn't have to pay for it. In this case, we say the question was, patul mashalim means that what? That it's not reversed. He just doesn't have to pay. You leave it the way it is. The answer is that according to the Pashup Shot is if there's somebody greater than him, then you can be reversed. If there's not somebody greater than him, then and if he doesn't want to change his decision, he doesn't have to pay, and that's you leave it at that. Rashi says, "Gadol imen also gadol machzik v'av shazeh." And gadol imen lo tzayis like baltein. If there's no greater laduri, the guy could say, "I don't want to." The litigant could say, "I like your first judgment, but if he was there, omer taisi lav kol kamina." So here we're saying that first we said that if he's not a mumcha, he's got to pay out of his own pocket. If he's a mumcha, you can reverse it. When is it reversed? If it's reversed by a greater authority. In other words, it sounds like there was an appeal of some sort, or the case was brought up again, and the other evidence was brought after he made his decision. And if greater people than him judge against him, then they overturn his decision. If there's not greater people than him, then if he doesn't reverse his decision, then it's patul masham. That's one way to learn. It depends on the kind of mistake that he made. And Minastam Rav Sheshes is explaining when is a mumcha's decision reversed and when is it not reversed. In one case, you say it's patul mashalem, right? It's patul mashalem, you leave it the way it is. In one case, you say it's overturned. So he says, when is it overturned? When is it reversed? In our Mishnah, speaking about when he made a mistake in an obvious Mishnah. If he made a mistake in an obvious sheet in the Gemara, we'll see not just in a Mishnah, but even the Gemara, if he made a mistake usually Shikol Das is translated as discretion, but we'll see what the Gemara is going to be more particular and explain what Shikol Das is over here. If he made a mistake, even if he's a mumcha, but if he made a mistake in an obvious halacha, so then that's reversed. So now we're saying that when is it reversed and when is he just patur l'shalem? If it's an obvious mistake based as the Gemara against what he said, that's so obvious that that can easily be overturned and he can revoke it himself. Ta b'shikol adas, made a mistake in discretion, ain't a choser. He doesn't have to go back on that, and presumably still patur l'shalem. There's different sheets as to presumably we're speaking now about the mumcha. Not talking about back to the first case, the way we explained the first answer of the Gemara was that when does he have to pay himself if he's not a mumcha? If he is a mumcha, then he doesn't have to pay out of himself, but rather it could be reversed, like we saw in our Mishnah. Okay. Okay, now the Gemara says, Amalei Rav Amnuna Rav Sheshes is the Girsa, because we're going to see a discussion here between Rav Amnuna and Rav Sheshes. When you say if he made a mistake in an obvious Mishnah, then it's overturned because it's an obvious mistake that can be easily revoked. He can revoke it himself, or other greater people can revoke him. We said before that even if it's not an obvious mistake, but if other greater people than him, so to speak, like a court of appeals overturns him, they can overturn him. But if it's not, he just doesn't have to pay, but he's still a mumcha, doesn't have to pay. The question is it reversed or not? Our Mishnah says that a dinim mamonos can be reversed, whether it's for good or for bad. So Rav Nuna said to Rav Sheshes now, even what happens if it's not a Mishnah? It's like a Tosefta. Afil Tabed Rav Chia of Rav Oshi, and Rashi explains over here that Rav Chia and Rav Oshi were the editors of the Tosefta. Tosefta means an addition. It was added on to the Mishnah. It's like brises, which were added on. They're not part of the Mishnah itself that Rebbe finished, but these were added on things. Even if he made a mistake in something obvious from a Tosefta, Amalein, yeah, that's also, if he made a mistake like that, a mumcha shouldn't paskin something against a Tosefta. Afilu Rav Shmuel. What happens if it's a machlokas Rav Shmuel in the Gemara? It's not even a Tosefta. It doesn't have the authority of a Tana. These are just Amaron. And Rav and Shmuel held a certain way, and it's obvious that's the halacha. And that based on Rav and Shmuel, if he made a mistake in that, it's also considered something that can be reversed. Amalein. So Rav Hamnuna and Rav Shesha said, what about something that we said? We're not as great as Rav and Shmuel even as Amaram. What about that? And what do you think we are? We know, like, what are we? Mashed potatoes, like you say. What are we? Chopped liver. We chopped liver. He says, even us. He says, what are we? Are we people who cut down reeds in the swamp? I mean, what do you think we are? Farm workers? Yeah, if you made a mistake, so we said, if it's shikol hadas, then it's not overturned. It's not the decision's not reversed. I'm Papa going straight to Noam. You have two people in the Gemara, either Tanoam or Amaram. They disagree. The halacha was not decided in the Gemara one way or another, right? The Ikri he decided, he found like one of them. This judge decided to go like one of them. But the trend of the Gemara seems to go the other way. Rashi says not the trend of the Gemara. Rova Tayanin, most judges see the other opinion, and this judge went with this opinion. So we say, okay, that was his discretion. He made maybe a discretionary mistake, but in a case like that, he's not overturned. It's not like he went against other greater rabbis, and it's certainly not he didn't go against an Afarish Gemara. It could have gone either way. The Gemara seemed to go one way. Hainu shikol das, that's shikol das. So in shikol das, we're saying that's what that's the answer. The last answer that we gave. Rav Nachman said that Rav Sheshes rather said that if he made a mistake in a Dvar Mishnah, or he said even a Gemara, Tosefta or a Gemara, that's a mistake that can be reversed, and that's what we mean in our Mishnah when our Mishnah says that Dina Mamanas Machzir Bein L'Schus Bein L'Chova. And then the Fosh is only for schus, not for chova, only for the benefit of the defendant, not for his detriment. Okay, so that's what we said. That's if it's a mistake, but if it's a shikol hadas, that's not overturned as long as he's a mumcha. That's okay. Okay, says Gemara. So Gemara now we have a kasha. Aisha goes, Eisvei Rav Hamnuna Rav Sheshes. So now Rav Hamnuna continues with his discussion. Again, Rav Sheshes was the one who said. Rav Sheshes said that if he made a mistake against a Mishnah or some of a Farish Gemara, that's overturned. If he made a mistake in his discretion, he went like one sheet instead of the other, and the predominant opinion of the judges or of the Gemara seemed to indicate the other way. That's something that's not reversed. It doesn't have to be reversed. You see, if the judgment was not just if it was not rendered yet, even if there was a verdict but they haven't executed it yet, then everybody agrees if the judge wants to revoke it, he can revoke it. Okay, Eis Rav Hamnuna Rav Sheshes. Maisa, listen to this story, famous story. Maisa b'para shel Beis Menachem. There was a story with a cow. Shenitla im shala. The womb of the cow, there's a female cow. Her womb was removed. Now the question is, if an animal's womb is removed, does that make it a treifa? Is it going to die, and therefore it's a treifa? Therefore you can't eat it. You got to give it to the dogs or whatever. So there's a story with a cow whose womb was removed. Rav Tarfon said that it sounds like Reb Tarfon himself said gave it to the queen, but that's not exactly what happened. Reb Tarfon said it's a treifa, and therefore you can't eat it. And therefore the defendant who came up with this question, the litigant, he basically threw it to the dogs. Okay. The story then, now there's a Beferish Mishnah which says that if the womb was taken, the animal is still kosher. Right, that does not render it a treifa, and the Ma'aser came for a chum b'yavna. Came with the person when the chum were in yavna v'hitirua, and they said, "What are you talking about? An animal, a cow whose womb is removed, is not a treifa. It's kosher. Why? Lefisha Amar Nesha Amar Tudus Arofe. Tudus was a famous doctor, a famous you call him a veterinarian, a doctor. He was well versed in halacha also. Tudus Arofe. He said, "Ain para." Ain't part of a chaser yotzim me Alexandria. They never had these animals, whether cows. I guess a chaser is a pig. That's what it means. Never left Alexandria. Egypt was known for horses, right? At the time of Shlomo Melech, right? The horses came from Egypt. Don't go back there to get more horses. They were known for They were breeders there, and they had cows and pigs, I guess, and swine, and these animals, they didn't want to lose their monopoly. So what they did was, I think you have this in modern times too, that there's certain places that have good animals, and they don't let's today you can consider it, let's say with a horse that the breeders, they give this out for studs, it's especially because it's worth a lot of money. So here also what they would do is they wanted to protect their market, so they did not allow, when they sold cows, let's say cows to others, they would remove the womb so that they couldn't use them for breeding. You want this cow? Fine, you can sell you the cow, but we're not going to let you breed it outside. So they removed the ability to have children from this. Maybe that was their method. They removed the womb. Maybe today you'd have different methods, right? You'd have the medicine and things like that to prevent the animal, to sterilize the animal. Okay, so what happened was no animal like that ever left Egypt, unless they remove the womb. So they shouldn't be able to give birth, and they shouldn't be able to use it for breeding outside. But the point was, the cow was okay. They didn't kill the cow. If they made the cow into a treifa by removing the womb, the animal wouldn't last very long, right? So what do you see? That it's okay, that it's not. So Rav Tarfon made a mistake. He said that it's a treifa. Rav Tarfon, holcha chamorcha Tarfon. He said to him, I'm going to have to pay for this. I'm going to have to sell my donkey now to pay for the chamor to pay for the cow that I claimed that it was a treifa, and I caused him to lose his cow. I'm going to have to go there. Amalur Kiva said, no, what are you worried about? Patrata, you don't have to pay for it. Shekala mumcha lebezin is the girsa, not the ram. We had before that mumcha lebram is a greater stage than mumcha. But if you're a mumcha, patul misham, you don't have to pay, like we saw before. If you're a mumcha, you don't have to pay. Wait a minute. Now, so it makes sense if you say that he made a mistake in his judgment. Okay, so he's a mumcha, he's allowed to make a mistake like that. You can call it a mistake or not a mistake. He went like one sheet versus another. He doesn't have to pay. But if you say that if you made a mistake in something which is a beferish Mishnah, we said even a Gemara or a Tosefta or a Gemara, you make a mistake like that, it could be revoked. It could be reversed. Why didn't Rabbi Kiva tell him? You made a mistake in an obvious Mishnah. The Mishnah says in Chulin that Nidlaim Shalak Shera. Rashi quotes the Mishnah in Chulin that if the womb was taken, the animal's kosher. So if you made a mistake in a Mishnah, but Talmud Mishnah Choser, what's your problem? You can just reverse it. What do you say? Yeah, I'm going to have to pay for it now. You can just reverse your decision because it was an obvious mistake. So if that's really the case, Rav Shesha said, if Rav Shesha is right, and this is a question Rav Meir is asking Rav Shesha, if you're right, that if you make a mistake in our Mishnah, it can be reversed easily. So why didn't you just say, why did he tell him, you don't have to pay because you're a mumcha? Say because you made a mistake in the Mishnah. The answer is Charav Okamar. He gave him both reasons. The Talmud of our Mishnah. Number one, you made a mistake in an obvious Mishnah, but Talmud Mishnah Choser. So you don't have to pay for this, just reverse your decision. And the second reason, even if it wasn't the Mishnah, and you made a mistake based on your own discretion, your own judgment, as to which the halacha would be, you don't have to pay. Okay, so what do you see? So that's his answer. His answer is, yeah, Rav Sheshes might be right, that if you make a mistake in a Mishnah, that could be revoked. But why did he tell him you're an expert? The answer is either one of those reasons. Even if it wasn't a Mishnah, you can make a mistake because you're a mumcha. What was his question in the first place? What's he trying to say? What was the question anyway? Mipara, how could you ask a kasha like that? You could reverse your decision, right? You make a mistake. He already gave it away. In other words, he says he was machal come. The par's not here. How can you reverse the decision if it's too late? The animal has been consumed already. It's gone. So how could he have asked that question in the first place? It's not around anymore to reverse your decision. It says hachikamer. So is that a kash? The answer is it is. Why? Hachikamer. This is what he told him. If we didn't say like Rav Sheshes said, you make a mistake against a Mishnah, you can revoke it. That's all. You reverse the decision. Okay? It says, but if that wouldn't be the case, Alma Kamdina, if you make a mistake like that, the judgment stands. I understand why Rav Tafra was upset. But he was afraid. He says, even though it's a favorite Mishnah, but I made a mistake, I can't reverse my decision, and therefore I'm going to have to pay for it. So Rav Tafra was worried about that. I'll have to sell my chamor. Rav Akiva answered him, no. Mumcha lebeznata, since you're a mumcha, you are a mumcha, you're an expert, you don't have to pay. Even though you made a mistake, you're entitled to make a mistake because you're an expert. Nobody's perfect. You're entitled to make a mistake. But if you say what? That you any mistake against an obvious Mishnah, a beferish Mishnah, an explicit Mishnah or a Gemara, a Brisa, anything, if it's against it, that can be reversed. Lamely could have told him, why didn't he tell him, Kivin the ilu havi para, Kivin the havi para? If the para would still be here, din cholav dina. This is what he said. Listen, if you say Eliyam Tabel Mishnah Choser, he should have told him. Lamely should have told him. This was the question Rav Nuna posed to Rav Sheshes. Since he could have told him, since if the para would be here, your judgment would not stand. You can reverse it, right? If Choser. You haven't done anything. Hashtanami lo klum. Now you haven't done anything either. Why? Because the fact that the litigant went and after you paskined, he gave his animal to the dogs, basically he threw it out, that's his problem. You're still entitled to reverse your decision. You're entitled to reverse your decision because it's not a din. You haven't done anything. If you say that a judgment against the Beferish Mishnah is literally not a judgment, doesn't stand, doesn't make any difference what he did. He didn't do it, even though the litigant went and followed your wrong decision. That's not a decision at all. In other words, din cholav din of you haven't done anything. Anything against the Beferish Mishnah is not a judgment. It's like if a person says, if a judge says, "Oh, you killed somebody? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. What do you kill somebody? Everybody knows that you can't kill somebody, and it's not mutter to kill somebody. It's not a judgment at all. And therefore, even if it's the fact that the cow isn't here to reverse the decision, you can still reverse your decision. So that's what he asked him. He asked him, is it Tabit Var Mishnah? If Tabit Var Mishnah Choser, then it makes no difference. It makes no difference. If you say the Tabit Var Mishnah is not Choser, so therefore, okay, so he was afraid that he's going to lose his own cow now. The Tarfon will have to pay for his own chamor, and I'll have to pay for it. And he says, no, Mumcha doesn't have to pay anyway. He told me, but if you say that Tabit Var Mishnah Choser, why didn't he tell him, listen, if you made a mistake in Mishnah, that's not apsak. It doesn't count at all. And the fact that the guy followed you, it's his tough luck. That was the Shakotavi there. Rav Chisda now in the Gemara, we're now about 8-9 lines from the bottom of the Gemara, from the bottom of the page. Rav Chisda Amar, now Rashi says Rav Chisda is going back on the original question that we started with today. Our Mishnah says, again, this is important to understand. Our Mishnah says that a financial decision can be reversed. Either way, even if they found him innocent, you don't have to pay, and then they say, no, you do have to pay, you can do that. When it comes to a capital case, you can't. If you found him innocent, you're not going to kill the guy, you can't reverse that. If you found him guilty, you could reverse it, right? But when it comes to money matter, you can reverse it. The Mishnah says over there that the din stands and the judge has to pay. So before we answer, it makes a difference if he's a mumcha now. It makes a difference if the judge physically handled the issue in question. Meaning, if it was money, did he take the money from one and give it to the other? Right? Did he do it? Did he do it himself? If he did it himself, if he did it with hand, then he has to pay. You can't reverse the decision. Right? He has to pay out. If he made a mistake, he has to pay out of his hand. Our Mishnah, which says it could be reversed, is if he didn't physically touch it. Now you say today, why would a judge do that? He would just sit up there and tell them, and the bailiffs and the whatever, Hotzah B'fall, whatever, would take care of it. Well, sometimes it wasn't done that way. Sometimes the judge was they said, okay, you be our judge, you judge this case, 3 guys or 1 guy, and you judge this case, and they decided to handle it themselves. If they handle themselves, then they have to pay. If they didn't handle themselves, that could be reversed. So that's our Mishnah speaking about where the judge didn't handle it. In the case of where he said, Danas Adin, all those cases, he used to pay because he handled himself. So let's understand this. How can we apply this in all cases? What does that mean? That the person was innocent, he made him pay, and then he reversed it. Okay, how can that be nasrat? I understand that, right? Reuven, they said Reuven was really innocent, but he said, Reuven, you have to pay Shimon. Give me the money, Reuven. Take the money from Reuven, and he gave it to Shimon. So he did it with his hands. That can't be reversed, and the judge has to pay out of his own pocket. But if he said, listen, the one who had, Reuben really had to pay, right? He really had to pay. The judgment was, but he said, no, Reuben, you're innocent. So he didn't do it. Innocent means he didn't pay anything. He didn't have to pay. So what does it mean? What did he do? How can you say if not biyad, then he's got to pay? What do you mean? If he just said you're innocent, you don't have to pay. He didn't. There was nothing to do biyad. He didn't take anything. He first said that you're innocent, and then he said afterwards you have to pay. You didn't do anything. There's no natal biyad there. So how can you say if natal biyad, then you have to pay? Our Mishnah speaking about was not natal biyad, but what's the zikas achayev? There's no natal biyad either way. If you said first that the person who's really guilty and he should pay, and you said he doesn't have to pay, so there's no natal biyad. You didn't do anything. You just said you're innocent. The answer is Damalei Potrata. Okay, because he said you don't have to pay. That's not doing it with you. That's not physically taking him. The answer is Kivan the Omar Potrata. Since he said you were absolved, you were innocent, you don't have to pay. It's as if he said, keep your money. It's as if he took it out of his wallet and put it back in there. It's like he did a biyad. So if that's the case, and that's why you say he has to pay when not biyad. So how does our Mishnah come out both ways? How do we understand our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says it could be reversed, whether it's for schus or whether chova. Either way, bishlam is schus. Okay, kagon mishkachas. How does schus work? How do you reverse it in favor of the defendant? He originally said you have to pay, but he didn't take the money. If he says you have to pay and he took the money, that would be like the Mishnah we're quoting over here at the top of the page, that you have to pay out of your own pocket because you took it. So that makes sense. First he said you're chayiv, and but he didn't take the money. That can be reversed. That's what our mission means. How can be reversed against the person who was innocent, and now you find him guilty? Because if you said you're innocent, that means you don't have to pay. So how does that means that it's like not the biyad. First you say you're potter, but you just said v'amart. Even though potter, once you said potter, and if it's not biyad, then you have to pay. It can't be reversed. How does our Mishnah say that? What that if you're if you were mezaka the person who's chayiv, that means fine. You told the person he has to pay when he didn't have to pay, and then you reversed it. And if you didn't take the money, okay. That makes sense, right? So you're reversing it from saying he has to pay to saying now he's innocent, he doesn't have to pay. And if you said first you have to pay and you didn't take the money, then you can reverse it. If you took the money, you have to pay out of your own pocket. Okay, that's how he's explaining it now. And therefore you can reverse. How does it say when you're reversing it, when you said originally you're a potter and now you have to pay? If by saying originally you're potter, it's like not to biyad, then you can't reverse it. And therefore it can't be reversed. Can't be reversed, you have to pay. The answer is so. How do you have a case of bein lechova? Our Mishnah can reverse bein lechova, bein l'schus, bein lechova. L'schus I can understand because first you made him pay. You told him to pay, and then you reversed it, but you didn't take the money yourself. So therefore you can reverse it. But if you say the other way, first you told him that you're potter, and then you told him you have to pay. But if you told him you're potter, it's like saying it's like not tavas, which means that you can't reverse it. So how does that work? The answer is chodektani. There really is not two cases here. It's not bein l'schus bein l'chova. It's one case. Chodektani. Dinamamas machzirun l'schus shehi chova. When it comes to money matters, you can reverse it in favor of the defendant, which originally you said he has to pay, and now you say you don't have to pay, and you didn't take it yourself. Then you can reverse it, which is a chova for who? For the other guy, for the other litigant, right? First you said that he has to pay, but you didn't touch the money, and then you said he has to pay. When he has to pay, okay, it's a schus for the other guy, right? Right? First you say he has to pay, and you didn't. First you said that he has to pay, and now you say you didn't touch it. Now you say he doesn't have to pay, so it's a schus for him, which is a chov for the other guy. The other guy can't get his money now. The kavasagav and nefashos. So if that's the case, where it's only a schus, machzir l'schus was a chova. The kavasagav and nefashos. What about by a capital case? Because you say when it comes to money matters, machzir l'schus bein l'schus bein l'chova, which means l'schus shehi chova. Okay, so the kavasagav and nefashos. What's that case? Machzir l'schus bein machzir l'chova. What's that similar case? Machzir l'schus chus greater. Meaning like a case of murder or a case of committing adultery, where you say, first you found him guilty, now you found him innocent. They machzirun l'chova, again, machzirun l'chos fines, that's fine. It's a case where, did you find him guilty of murder or not guilty of murder? Or guilty of adultery or not guilty? First, you say, if you found him guilty, you can reverse that and find him innocent. Okay, that's chos greater, so it's not a chov for anybody. The ein machzirun l'chova. So what's mean ein machzirun l'chova? And by the case of money matters, you say machzirun l'chos shehi chova. But as opposed to a capital case, ein machzirun l'chova is machzirun. You don't reverse it if you told him that he's innocent, or he didn't commit adultery, he didn't kill somebody, you can reverse that. Ve'in machzirun l'chova, what's that? What's ve'in machzirun l'chova? Innocent, because it's got to be the same way. L'schus shehi chova. In other words, you're saying for schus means plain schus. But ein machzirun l'chova, l'schus shehi chova. If you want to say apples and apples, and you say that for din and mamanas machzirun l'schus shehi chova, you reverse a case where it's a schus, where originally you say he has to pay. You didn't take the money yourself, so you don't have to pay yourself. Then you can reverse that and say he does have to pay now, right? You can machzirun l'schus shehi chova. You can again. First you said that he does. First you said that he has to pay, but you didn't take the money, and then you said he does have to pay, which is chus, which is a chova for the other guy. Okay. For a financial matter, for a capital case rather. When you say the Mishnah said when it comes to money matters, then the nefashos machzirun l'chus ve'ein machzirun l'chova. So what is ein machzirun l'chova? L'schus shehi chova. It's a schus for this guy, which is a chova for the other guy. What other guy? If you're talking about a murder case, so you say, okay, if you found him guilty, you can reverse it and say, find him innocent. But ein machzirun l'chova, what does that mean? What does the chova here mean? Just like in the case of the financial case, we said, doesn't mean chova literally, it means chus shehi chova. So here, what is the chus shehi chova? Who's the chov? If you find him innocent of, you can't find him guilty now, which is a chus for somebody else. What does that mean? It's chus shehi chova. You can only reverse a case if you're finding him innocent. But you can't reverse it for a case where you're finding, what does chova mean? A schus for him, which is a chov for somebody else. If it comes to a capital case, well, who's that a chov for? It's like, you're just dealing with a defendant here. It's like the government, the court is going against him. There's no two litigants here. It says, holokasha chavasa de gol adam. You know what it means? It's a chov for the gol adam, meaning that if you say that machzirun l'chova she's chus means it's a schus for him, but it's a chov for the goel adam, for the next of kin of the murdered person, because he feels bad if he can't take it out on him. If the guy, in other words, the family of the murdered person is going to feel bad. That's what you're saying. So, if it's just a case of, is this person, let's say, committed adultery, call it like when there's what they call a victimless crime. Okay, there's always a victim, but you call it a victimless crime. Okay, that you can reverse and say you found him first guilty, then you find him innocent. But you don't reverse it for a chov, which is a schus. For the chova, the schus shehi chova. Finding something innocent for him, meaning he's found acquitted, but it's a chov for somebody else. Who's a chov for somebody else? If it's a murder and you find him innocent now after you found him first guilty, so who is that a chov for? Who's getting hurt by that? So that's kasha. It's the Gol Adam. The Gol Adam who first felt happy that the accused was going to be killed, and now you find him innocent. He's going to feel bad because now this guy was saved, who killed his kin. In
the case of murder, there's no double jeopardy. That's what it is. If you find somebody,
that's right. No. In a case, you can't find him guilty, right? But the reverse is true. That's right. You can't find him guilty. But the question is, we're trying to say apples and apples. If by a financial matter we say, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that machzirun l'chova. We said that doesn't work l'chova, because once you find him innocent, that's not zurata b'yad, and you don't reverse that. So what does the Mishnah mean when it says machzirun bein l'schus ben chova? It means a schus shehi chova. Okay, so then apply it also to the capital case. You say ein machzirun l'chova, machzirun l'schus greater said. Machzirun l'chova means l'schus shehi chova. So how could it be a schus for the accused murderer who is that a chova? If you find you're allowed to ein machzirin l'chova, you don't find him guilt. A schushi chova, a schus for one, which is a chov for the other one. A chovas edaman, so kash the chovas adam. So I understand. You're saying over here, you would reverse it if it's simply a case of there's an accused. Let's say a case of adultery. You first find him guilty, then you find him innocent. That's okay, right? Machzirin l'schus. But you don't machzir l'chova if it's a schus for one and a chov for another. So I understand. This guy is accused of murder, and you found him first guilty. Found him guilty. The Gol Adam, the family, they're all happy that this guy's going to be killed. And now you say you don't reverse that. You don't reverse it and say that the accused is innocent now because it's going to be a chov for the family. You can't reverse it, even though there's grounds for reversal, right? First, you found him guilty of murder. Now you say, no, you know what? I don't think he really murdered him, but we can't overturn that because the family will feel bad. So as the Gemara says, Mishum Chavasa de Goldam, because they're going to feel bad. They're going to feel bad. Kathleen and they were going to kill this guy. You found this accused murderer. You found him guilty. I said, no, it's grounds to acquit him. We can't acquit him because the way we're interpreting that, and that ein machzirin l'chova means l'schus she'chova. It's a schus for him, and it's a chov for whom? For the family of the accused, for the family of the murderer, rather, the family of the murderer. So we would find him innocent now, but we can't because we can't reverse it. Because we reverse it and find the murderer innocent, then his family's going to feel bad. Does that make sense? And anyway, v'od my bain. The Mishnah said, machzirin, when it comes to money matters, machzirin bain l'schus bain l'chava. Whether it's a schus, whether it's a finding him acquitted or he doesn't have to pay, or whether it's a chav that he does have to pay. Now you're saying, according to Rav Chisda, well, it can't mean that because if we're talking about where he didn't handle the money, that's the chova. And what's the schus? That you told him he can keep his money, but that's like you handled it. That means you can't reverse it. So how do you have a case of machzir and lechova? How does it have a case of machzir and lechova? There's no machzir. So it doesn't mean machzir. It means l'schushi chova. But then it doesn't work out in the case of the capital case. What do you mean? A machzir l'schushi chova for a capital case doesn't make sense. You're not going to find him. You're not going to reverse it and find him innocent. There's grounds to find him innocent. They find out now that many people on death row really, with the DNA and all these other things, were really innocent. There's grounds to find him innocent. You're not going to find him innocent because the family of the the person who was murdered is going to feel bad. And also, the Mishnah says machzirim bein l'schus bein l'chova, and you're trying to interpret it now. It means a schus, which is a chova. That doesn't really fit into the words. That's taka kasha. Ravina says, I'll give you a different answer. There is a simple answer. What was our whole issue? We said ein machzirin l'chova is a case of where he was found innocent originally, and then you find him chova, and machzirin means for a financial matter you do reverse it. But how can you reverse it? Because if you say he's first innocent, that's like not tov v'nasam b'yad. That's like you actually handled it. You just say he's innocent, you don't have to pay, and then you say you do have to pay. So it's like you handle it. Once you handled it, you can't reverse it. But he says, no, I'll tell you how. Here's what happened. When he said he's innocent, when he said, let's say, there's a question, does Reuben owes money to Shimon or not? Right? Shimon claims that I lent you $100, and Reuben says, I don't. And if you find Reuben innocent, so no money, nothing has changed now. You're innocent. You don't have to pay. So he said, if finding him innocent is like you took the money there, like you did it there. So it's like not tov v'nasam b'yad, in which case it can't be reversed. No, I'll tell you how. He found him innocent, and he said, therefore, that Shimon should return the collateral. What was the issue? Does Reuben have to pay the loan or not? Because Shimon had lent him money, and Shimon took collateral from him. So now when he said Reuben is innocent, what does that mean? He told Shimon, you have to return the collateral. Reuben's innocent, doesn't have to pay. There's some mistake here. Maybe he paid it off already, whatever. So therefore, it's not. Therefore, that's the reversal. The reversal is there was an act over here. There was an act. It wasn't like don't do anything and therefore it's not Talmud Yad. There is something. He told them you should return now the money. So therefore that was what it means when it's innocent. There is money changing hands. So did the judge take it physically, the mashkin, and give it back? If he did that, he can't be reversed. He's got to pay out of his own pocket. But if he didn't take it himself, he just told the other guy to do it, then it could be reversed. So there is a case here. There is a difference of schus and there is a case of chov. Schus means, chov means you have to pay. You have to pay. If he didn't pay, you have to pay. And that could be reversed as long as the judge didn't take the money himself. And what does schus mean? Get your mashkin back. get your mashkin back. If the judge did it himself, took the mashkin from him, then it can't be reversed anymore. But if he didn't do himself, he just told the other guy to do it, that can be reversed. We thought originally that quitted means you didn't do anything, just keep your money. And that's like I took the money and then took the money out of your pocket and put it back in. Now we're saying, no, it's not like that at all. It's a case of a mashkim. Yeah. Okay, if we didn't have a mashkim, then it would be a problem. But the Mishnah, we're explaining how would the Mishnah work. When the Mishnah says you can reverse it both for acquittal and for guilt or pay or, not pay and pay. If he said not pay, he didn't do anything. And that's like not of Rasabiyad. The answer is no. We told him you got to give your mashkin back. If there wouldn't be a mashkin back, you're right. Then there would be nothing. Then if there would be no mashkin back, then the judge couldn't reverse it. Once he said he's innocent, it's like he took it out of his own hand. And if it was really guilty, the judge would have to pay it out of his own pocket. That's how we're explaining it now. And what would be a case of Timei Satorah? The Mishnah went on to say, the Mishnah said whether you have to pay or not pay, Zikas Chayiv, Chayiv Asazakai, you told the guy who should pay that he doesn't have to pay, or vice versa. Or what's Timei Satorah? Timei Satorah, what happened was this. He said this thing the thing was really clean, was tahor, was pure, spiritually pure, and he said it's tamei. And what did he do? To emphasize his point, the judge, the Agibei Sheretz, the judge says, oh, this fruit is tamei. It wasn't tamei, but he judged it was. And then the judge took the fruit and put a dead sheretz on it to make that it was definitely tamei. Now the judge did it with his own hands, can't reverse that, and he has to pay. And tiras tamei similarly, something was tamei and he was matired. He said it's tar. Shiur from Parosov, he says this is tar, and then he mixed it up with all the other pairs. So effectively, he was matame them. And in a case like that, he'd have to pay because that means not on nas miyad. Now the Mishnah said din and nefashos, machzirin only for good, not for bad. In other words, if a man's found guilty of murder or adultery, something that to be chayav misa for, din and nefashos, we said that you can reverse that for good. You can find him innocent now, but once you find him innocent, you can't, like you say, double jeopardy. You can't find him guilty. Let's say he came out and they said he's guilty. Chayav misa. One said, I have some reason to find him innocent. I have an excuse. How do we know you take him back even after the verdict? Naki means he's actually pure. He's actually innocent. Don't kill him. Be careful. Even if there was a judgment rendered already. Let's say he came out of Bezin and they found him innocent. Wait a minute, I have a reason to find him guilty. How do you? So that's double jeopardy. We don't take him back into court to find him guilty, even if the person has a reason to. He's got evidence or whatever. Tzaddik al tarog. Tzaddik here means once he's found acquitted. Mashmashen it's tzaddik bedins. Rashi says the different masel tzaddik. Mashmashen it's tzaddik bedim. In judgment, he was found innocent. He was acquitted. Even though he's not really guilty, he's not really innocent. He's guilty, but he was found innocent. You can't kill him. When it comes to an insider, person who incited people of Azara, it's the opposite. The Pasuk says, "Lo sachma." We had this before. Lo sachma don't have rachmanas. Lo sachma don't cover up for him. And the next pasuk there says you should definitely kill him. So when it comes to an insider, it just says the opposite. If somebody finds reason to kill him, you kill him. If find himself innocent, we don't. Okay, we've understood the difference between financial matters and a capital case. What happens if it's a case of, let's say, corporal punishment, where it's physical punishment? It's not a question of paying money, but it's not a murder case. It's a question of shogeg. Does he have to go into golus or not? What's the halacha there? Is that also like a murder case where you can only reverse it for good, not for bad? Chayv golios it's also rotzech. You learn it's called rotzech there. It's called rotzech. Both cases are called rotzech. What about Chavi Malchus, where it's only lashes and you're not going to kill the guy? It's also Resha. It says Russia. So that also tells me by murder it says Russia and by Malchus it says Russia. So the same rules apply, that you can only reverse it for innocence but not for guilt. Again, Rav Shava is like Russia. Again, you don't reverse it to find him guilty. That's only if he made a mistake. Even here, where we say there's no double jeopardy. That's only if a mistake is made, something that's stukim and not murder. What are the stukim? The stukim were like Apikorsim, who only believed in the Torah B'Ksav, not in Torah Shebal Peh. So if the stukim be moda, for example, don't kill somebody. They're murder also. The pasuk says don't kill. So if a guy says, oh, killing, you're innocent because the Torah doesn't say you're chayav for killing somebody or for something that's obvious as that. So it's only if he made a mistake in something that the tzdukim are not motive to, meaning it's a halacha in the Gemara in the Torah Shabbat Pet. But if it's something that's tzdukim motive, then you can even reverse that even for guilt. Go back to school. Go back to the school to the Beirav, who even a child in school knows that you're not supposed to kill, you're not supposed to commit adultery. The obvious things that are written in the Torah, those things, if a judge made a mistake and said you're innocent, even though you committed murder, you're innocent because murder is not forbidden. That's so obvious that could even be reversed. What if he made a mistake in a case of adultery? What would you say there? While the fire is still hot, go cut down your pumpkin, vitzali, and roast it. In other words, we just discussed this, right? While this is right? That's not that question at all. Meaning, Zilkar Beiravu. The Zilkar was the first one. This is going on. About the Zika man. He said people committed adultery. Do you say madrina lechova? But when it comes to right, how did he kill him or not kill him, things like that. But when it comes to a case of enough office, there's no mistake over there. Maybe you say if he made a mistake by a murder case, there's reasons to be masked. Was the stone real enough to kill him? Maybe he wouldn't be guilty, things like that. You can ask that. But what about no where it's obvious? There's no reason to find him innocent in the case of adultery. So if he made a mistake like that, can it also be reversed? So go check it out. Meaning, Rashi says, while the fire is still hot, go and roast your pumpkins. Ten love lahavin lahosef lekach harei shamatni many the tobet varsha sukamog. If there's something at the sukamogabo, you can go back on that. Vaydav should sukamogabo. Ella, the question was this: Where do you say that you didn't find where it was questionable and he found them innocent? In other words, it's something at the sukamogabo. Let's say he made a mistake in this. We learned out that if you commit adultery, even let's say anally, you committed not with the regular bia, but you did a bia, what was called bia shelo kedarka. The tzdukim might say that that's not adultery. We learn it out because it says right mishkevei isha, right? Mishkevei isha, any way that it's performed, that's considered adultery. So in a case like that, and made a mistake like that, that's davar shetzdukim modba. You can't reverse that. If it's something that's very obvious, that even the tzdukim would say that is forbidden, and the judge found him innocent, that could be reversed. Dina mamanis hakol. Anybody can open up to appeal it, to reverse it. Zakol afilu Adam, even though Adam found him, it said this guy has to pay, he's innocent, that he has to pay, he's chayiv to pay. Anybody could open it up. What do you mean anybody? Everybody can malam of schus. Anybody could say, well, listen, I'm going to say something in his favor. Name Masisim Rav Yosef Rav Yudi. Our Mishnah goes like beautiful Rabban. And the Tanya of Eidechel Lo Yanamish. One person should not find the person guilty, cannot testify. Bein l'schus, bein l'chova. That's what the Tanakama says. That one person, in other words, an aide who gave testimony, cannot now go and argue in his favor against it. Just we don't own l'schus. He could say something in his favor. So are we talking about Adam over here? And our mission would go like Rav Shapiro, that even though a witness gave testimony saying that he borrowed money, he can now say a reason why he doesn't have to pay. It doesn't mean the Adam, it means one of the Talmidim. The Talmidim are sitting in front of the judges who are not really judges yet. They can also, they're one of those Talmidim, they can testify in that, but not the Adam himself. All right, we'll pick it up from here tomorrow. The reasoning of Rav Shapiro, that's at the top of the page, meaning we're going to go back to explain why Rav Shapiro says that even a witness who gave testimony against the defendant can now find him, can now give a reason to find him innocent.
In other cases, they may change in his mind. They could call the innocent. you have to assume that there's an appeal there.
That's right.
It's not the judge doesn't know the simple.
Right. But it doesn't have to be like a court of appeals like we have here, a lower court and a superior court. It could be that guy could just come and say, wait a minute, I have something to say. You could do that. So in a financial matter, you could do that both for schus and for chov. For a capital case or even a corporal case like Malchus, you can only do it to find, if he was found guilty, to change it to innocence, but you can't do the other way around. That's like you say, double jeopardy.
Yeah,